Welcome back to the Perfect Lap Podcast. I'm Mark Jager. This is Mark Kilgore. He goes by Kilgore. I go by Jager. And today we have TJ Campbell on from Tire Rack. Guess what, guys? You guessed it. We're going to talk tires. Can you believe it? We're going to talk to a guy from Tire Rack and we're going to talk tires. Obviously, we're going to get into the all-important tire talk from time attack aspects. We're going to get to know the secret sauce, the magic tires, and how you, the time attacker, can get the most out of them. TJ Campbell has all the information. He's been testing all these tires, a lot of 200 Treadwear, a lot of 220, 100. We're going to find everything out. Here comes the information. TJ, how's it going? How has your day been today?
Oh, it is spectacular. Thanks for having me. And today has been a day and a half. But you know what? I'm happy to be here. This is nice, relaxed, easy way to talk tires and finish up my day. So thank you for having me here.
Dude, we are pumped to get on here and talk tires. I will say this. Obviously, one of the biggest talks of the town is always the 200, and we're going to call it the correct name because the correct name is the Super 200s because, as we all know, Treadwear is all a bunch of shenanigans, and we'll get into that a little bit later.
Absolutely.
But the Super 200 tires that every street class, I'm air quoting everybody, street class person is going to come here and talk about. They always want to know which is the best, which is the tire to choose from. Everybody's got their own magic weapon. So, but I think let's start in a more cautious way. I guess I'll say this. Kind of let's talk a little bit about your experience, TJ, and how you came to work for Tire Rack and how you enjoy testing all these beautiful, amazing tires that you get to test.
Absolutely. Yeah, happy to talk about it. So this was my first tire rack, was my first real job outside of college. But I took 8 years to graduate college, not a doctor, just kind of wandered my way through. So I did a lot of stuff then, but then graduated college, and there was an ad on our digital classified board at my local community college that I graduated from for a customer service position at Tire Rack.
Wow.
And I had been a Tire Rack customer since I was like 16. Like, they're basically in my backyard. I grew up in this area. I never got away. So, when I was a kid, I pieced together a suspension upgrade for my Ford Escort GT. Asked for birthday, I'd ask one relative for a damper, one relative for a strut mount, and just over birthday and Christmas, pieced together a complete suspension upgrade, a 16-year-old's complete suspension upgrade. Anyway, so I started out in customer service. So from 2012 to 2014, if you ever called into Tire Rack with any concerns, complaints, questions, chances are you may have talked to me. I was one of the people that you talked to. But then moved into sales or inside sales for like 10 months. And like 6 months into that, the man that started the tire testing department, our director of tire information services, his name was John Rastetter.
That sounds
Uh,
official.
yeah, it is, right. Yep. He's kind of legendary within the industry. He was a tire engineer for years, a tire designer. Anyway, he retired, and that opened up a spot in this department. And out of all the people who applied, I was fortunate enough to be the one to get the nod. Yeah, you can come join the team. So started testing tires, also doing a lot of writing, learning a lot of technical tire knowledge, because that's a big part of this position. It's not just driving, it's knowing what tires do, how they do what they do, how they're manufactured, what they do in service. And then, of course, we do the evaluation, the communication of all that as well.
So let me ask you a quick
Yes.
question there in terms of your background. Okay, you spent 8 years in college. Did you come out, or were you STEM oriented in terms of science, sort of testing the scientific method, right? Hypothesis, data collection, or were you on like business, sales, marketing course?
That's it. Business.
Okay.
It's a small business and entrepreneurship degree, actually. So it was like a
Oh, interesting.
general overview of business. So some marketing, some accounting, some psychology, some just yeah. So absolutely business. I am very interested in the engineering side of things. I have nothing but respect for tire engineers. I will fully admit, though, I do not have an engineering brain. I don't quite work that
So you're
way.
not. So you're telling me you're not completely broken. Got it.
Correct. I mean, I'm completely broken, but in a different way. It's not in an engineer type of way. So yeah, so we I started doing the testing thing. Started in this department 12 years ago now at this point, and just kind of worked up. And there were some um, corporate changes, some corporate structure changes, that sort of thing. And, we now have myself and my co-driver, and we do the driving. And then we have one tech that does all of our tire changes, mounts and balances everything for us, does all of our fleet maintenance, does all of the things that make testing actually happen, aside from the actual testing. And then we recently, well, not recently, it's been a few years now, we hired a copywriter. My co-driver and I used to also write all the reports. Every description of a tire that you saw on TireRack.com, that came out of my pen, and that now is handled by a writer that reports up through me as well. So we're kind of, between the testing and all written word that is tire related that you see on TireRack.com, that all comes from our department.
What do you think? I'm just going to say this. What do you think about that responsibility? And I say that from the context of I know for me, I definitely look at those reviews. I watch the videos. I see those attributes, and literally people, spend their hard-earned dollars and cents based on the words that you speak, the words that you write, and they are making those tire choices based off of that. Now, granted, I will say for obvious reasons, once they get the tire, they get to make their own decision. But that initial purchase, like, and I always tell this to people, many people, and just the track day orientation side of the house, they might get this recommendation from yourself and quite literally will buy that tire until it is discontinued.
We take that very, very seriously. Our testing department, from the very beginning, from when John Raster started it, it has been testing first and foremost, purity of testing first and foremost. We are totally removed from the business side of things. We have the buyers are the ones that need to make sure that we can make money on these products. That is not us. If the cheapest tire or the tire that we make the least profit on is the best tire, we're going to say that. So while we are technically part of the marketing department, we are on our own little island doing testing stuff because not just our department, but Tire Rack as a whole, will not allow us to be influenced in any way because the testing is so important. The quality, the reliability, the purity of the testing is so important to our ethos, just who we are as a company. So yeah, I take that very, very seriously. I lose sleep over stuff. I find myself at night thinking, oh man, there was just a little bit of trend in that test. What if this tire, didn't get, we didn't represent it properly because there was an uptick in sun. It was cloudy all day. And then when we tested that one, there's just so many things that swirl around your head because we just put a lot of pressure on myself to make sure that what we are presenting is representative, is repeatable, is accurate for consumers.
Can you do us a little bit of a favor? I love I love that you said you put a lot of pressure on yourself to provide the most quality feedback as possible. I always think of it, those, I don't want to say memes, but kind of like that visionary aspect of when people talk about, like, I have X number of followers, and they like that new thing that comes up where it's like it shows like 100 people around you, and then 1,000 people, and then 10,000 people. For obvious reasons, like, you literally have hundreds of thousands of people watching your tire tests all the time. So you literally have that amount of context, just people of just seeking out your information. Can you break down a little bit the tire testing philosophy You've probably done that on your channel many a times, but for our audience here, kind of break down that philosophy and how you get, and especially obviously, we're just not talking about your oh man, I can't even remember the sweet brand that is so awesome to say out loud. Oh, dang it! But that cheap
Mucho
brand,
macho.
yeah. Not talking about one of those. Talking about one of the sweet, sweet like Yokohama, Nanking, Bridgestone, BF, one of those brands. When we're talking about some sweet, good tires that go on track, how does that test look, and how are you really bringing that testing procedure to us as a customer?
Sure. The tires that we select for the test, generally, fortunately, the tire manufacturers keep a steady stream of new tires coming out. So generally, the test group is built around a new product or new products that have come out. We say, this year's 200 treadwear test, Potenza RE71RZ, and the Tempesta P1X01R. Those are our two new products. So now we build out the competitive set around that. We, of course, choose any previous test winners. We choose popular tires. We choose tires that we've had requests from viewers, from customers. And, we take all of those kinds of things into consideration and put our competitive set together. For our testing that we do here, we drive them in every condition that you are likely to experience these tires in. So we do test them, even though they're 200 treadwear track tires. We test them on the road to see what you're going to live with day in and day out. We test them in the wet. We have a sprinkler system on our track, so we find out how they are in wet traction, and of course dry traction as well. If we're talking not so sweet tires, all season stuff, we also then test snow and ice as well.
Do you ever check, because I go to Buttonwillow all the time. Do you ever what's the testing procedure for like two wheels in the dirt and two wheels on the pavement?
we this is something that we actually talk about this at the beginning of our Gingerman test videos, and it's always going through my head like, do we really need to be saying this? Like, is this something, do people actually care? But yes, it's important, because when you're tire testing, more important than being absolutely as fast as you can be is being consistent. Because if you are driving one tire and you put two on the apron, and then the next tire you put two in the dirt, and then the next tire you're three in the dirt, you have not driven the same lap on those tires. You have added a variable that is something other than the tires. So yes, up at Gingerman, there are a few places that because it's my home track and I'm usually driving it in my car, I have a tendency to take more and more curb and then dirt. So we before we start every day, we drive out and we set our cones out, so that are like hey TJ,
Stay
don't
in these.
go. Stay, yeah, keep it on the straight and narrow here. Just as a guardrails, bumpers, whatever the case may be, because we have a limited time to experience all of these tires. We try to give every tire the exact same amount of laps, and yes, if we really bork one, we'll redo. But we measure wear, we report wear. So if one tire, it's like, oh, I know I can get another tenth, and you keep pounding around the track on it, just trying to eke out that magical, whatever lap time. That's adding a variable. So we need to get out there, warm up the tires, do their timed laps, and then get back in, change over, and get on the next set of tires. And like I said, we can't add a variable that is anything other than what tires you're driving on. So we make very certain that we are driving the same lap every time. And like I said, we cut off a few of the tempting spots that maybe I might default back to, race car driver TJ and put two in the dirt.
And
So
just for
you
everyone,
guys,
oh, go
well,
for it.
I was gonna on Jaeger's continue off of Jaeger's question in terms of the philosophy. Obviously, tires are very important. You guys build out the competitive tire around the new product that you have coming out. Over the last couple of years, you guys have been putting that on a G82 M2, G87
It's
M2.
seven. Yep.
Yep. how did you guys come about selecting that platform?
You know, picking a new test vehicle is an interesting exercise because honestly, the first pass is tire size and what will fit on it.
Sure.
If you could have the coolest car in the world, but it's got staggered widths and staggered diameters front to rear, 911 Cayman, and you can't use that as a test car because there are 4 tires that fit all of that. And I was like, all right, what are we going to test today? Well, the same things that we tested last time. So you have to have something that will accept a very popular, commonly used size. We always run square fitments as well. So it has to be something that the traction control system isn't going to freak out when you've got non-factory ODs on the vehicle. So tire size is pass number one, and when we picked the M2, it was part of a wholesale makeover of our test fleet. I don't know how far back you guys have looked at tire rack test videos, but we used to have a slightly different format. We had 4 of the exact same sedan for car tires, and 3 of the exact same SUV for SUV or truck tires. And so we put a different set of tires on each vehicle. But the limitation of that was we use generally a BMW 3 or 4 series, depending on what the flavor of that lease was.
As you
And
should. I mean,
yeah,
that's
they're a perfect all-purpose vehicle. A lot, I will even go out and say most of the tire manufacturers still use that chassis, one of those models of BMW for development work. But the issue was,
God, just stroking his ego. Oh my
oh,
God.
is that
I
what
got my
Kilgore drives?
BMW M hat
Oh,
on,
I
man.
can't even see it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
black on black. Yeah.
yeah, right. Yeah, it is. Well, there you go. Well, they in the past they weren't M cars. They were base model two uh 2 liter
328s,
4-cylinder
I think.
turbos.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep, absolutely. And then we did the 430 Grand Coupe. So that was the
Mm, yep.
two-door version of no, the 4-door version of the 2-door version of the 4-door car is
There you
what
go.
those were. Yeah.
But see, Jaeger, that's how I knew that I could trust these guys. I knew that
Right.
they
We used the
were
right
legit,
vehicle.
right? Yeah, they're not using a Miata like Andy Hollis, right?
It's what, they're all different data points. I do enjoy all of Andy's
Yeah.
work.
Oh, yeah.
He and Jonathan Benson from Tire Reviews and we all have our little gal pal chat group where we talk about what we're doing, what we're testing, what kind of results we got, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so both of those guys, I can't say enough about the quality of their testing as well. And it's awesome that we most often, not always, but most often come to the same place despite our different protocols, our different test vehicles. Of course, there are outliers here and there, but in general, we all
Yeah.
end up saying the
Yeah.
same thing, which
No,
is
I mean, it
spectacular.
is great to see that you guys. I do appreciate that everyone has a different, although Jonathan has been using his M4 lately, but
Mhm,
it's good to see, a lot of different cars because then that does give you, as you said, different data points,
mhm,
which in terms of one of your recent videos that just came out, you guys did both the M2 and the new BRZ, I
mhm.
think, so again, just right different data points, and I think that is something, especially so we've talked to Jonathan from Tire Reviews previously on this, and that was something that he talked about, was you know as we will get into, and I'm sure that we will reiterate and we will say multiple times, when you're looking at tires and you're testing, you have to look at your car, right? And you can't just take, if someone says, oh, this is the best tire, doesn't matter the car, you can take that advice at your own peril, right? There's really there's it's pretty clear that the data can be different from car to car, but you guys still see trends and can come to some similar conclusions based on these different data points.
Yep, it can be, though. I guess kind of counterpoint to that, the BRZ and M2 test. Yeah, there were differences between the cars, but the relative differences between
Right,
tires on both cars matched. We
right,
actually just not these fun tires, but we just did a test where we put the exact same tires on our all-wheel drive 3 Series and then our Tesla Model 3 Performance, and we tested the same 5 tires on both of those. Same thing, difference between cars, but the relative differences between all the tires was very similar. Now, when we get into the fun track tires, yes, setup is a big factor. I mean, of course, the poster child for that is the AO52. If you run that thing, I mean, if you run it on two BRZs and one has plenty of wheel to support the tire, and one you're stuffing a wide tire on a narrow wheel, you're absolutely going to get different results because that
Mm-hmm.
tire, likes to be set up properly for optimum results. Some tires are a bit more agnostic to that as well, and that's part of the we were talking about that makeover of our test fleet, where we went from just, hey, this is what we test for car tires. In our more extensive makeover, we picked vehicles that were more representative of the categories that we were testing. So like we use a Camry for just regular passenger car tires. We have a pickup truck for those kinds of tires, an SUV for crossover type tires, and then we wanted to have a dedicated performance vehicle, and that was the M2 is the one we chose for that. And I'm very very happy with it as a test vehicle. Honestly, I mean,
Yeah.
sure, it's loud and fun and fast, but more important than all of those things is, does it allow us to differentiate between products? Can we feel actual differences? And uh, the vehicle manufacturers have been making our jobs harder and harder when it comes to steering, electric power steering. Fortunately, we started at the very beginning of EPS, and so we have been figuring it out and refining it and learning how to work with that for those types of evaluations over the last whatever decade or so since it started happening, ever since they switched from hydraulics to power steering in the 3 Series. Yeah, it is a very good test car.
Yeah. I want to touch on one other thing on your testing and get your thoughts on it. Uh, I'll make a statement. You can totally disagree with me, or you can, say I agree with you on some things, don't agree with you on others. But uh, usually when you guys are doing especially your track testing,
Mhm.
you usually start all the tires at the same pressures, right?
Mm.
The warm up is typically the same, right? You want those variables to be the same,
Uh-huh.
even though, right, we as track enthusiasts or track rats, you should be determining what starting pressures a particular tire likes over another. Some may like lower, some may like higher. Usually, sometimes you can find sort of what the hot targets are that the manufacturer recommends,
Uh-huh.
but you guys don't normally go into that detail, and I think that there's probably a couple reasons for that in terms of, time constraints is a big thing, right? And but talk to me a little bit about, again, sort of the philosophy, why you guys have chosen to go that direction, and it could just be as simple as we don't have enough time, but also I'm sure there's some other things that go into it. So maybe talk a little bit about that in terms of, how your philosophy works.
Of course, and you're of course right nail on the head that we wanted a level playing field for all tires. There theoretically wasn't in the past wasn't time to adjust, when we were testing, 11 different tires, to figure out exactly what each tire likes. But the good news is, this year, every tire that we tested up at Gingerman, we did a test prior to that on our skid pad, where we did a full pressure sweep from 40 psi all the
Wow.
way down to 26 psi for every tire. And we, just ran them around our skid pad. So we found maximum lateral traction and also subjective behavior. So every tire in the test, we have, before we started, we chose an optimum pressure for our setup for that specific tire. So this year we
That's awesome.
said, you know what, we're not just going to do blanket pressures across everything. We're going to s- uh, give specific pressures for each tire.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Use
and I mean, and that the benefit there is that you're trying to put the tire in its best window for it to put its best foot forward, so to
Mhm.
speak, right? And so I mean that's great that you were able to do that.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's cool.
So, unpopular opinion, and one that is
Bring it.
cor- one that is corroborated by one of the other guys that we talked about earlier, but I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but one of those guys agrees with this completely. Almost all 200 Treadwear tires are essentially pressure agnostic within a pretty wide window in terms of absolute grip that they provide. The subjective behaviors change noticeably, and you can still gain or lose a lot of speed by using the wrong pressure based on subjective behavior. But in terms of just pounding around a skid pad, the numbers don't change for most tires between 30 and 40 psi. Now,
Wow.
there are
Okay.
exceptions to all of those things. So, of course, always find out for yourself, tune for yourself, do your own experimentation. But it the actual grip that the tires provide, it's one of those things that we as enthusiasts might be focusing a bit too much on. I would say if anybody wanted to ask my advice, tune for feel, not for grip. And wear, of course, because when you start going down in pressures, your tires absolutely are unhappy and develop some crazy wear patterns.
A quick thing on that, kind of yell out the obvious wear pattern things that people should look out for to indicate that they're running them too low.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the most obvious is if you start seeing wear down into the major branding on the sidewall of your tire, stop what you're doing. You would be surprised at the number of, customer concerns, that we get because hey, what is going on with my tire? Why does the Mr. Bib have his hand worn off? What happened? It's because the tire is rolling under as it's being overdriven at too low of a pressure, and you are literally driving on the sidewall of your tire, and that's not where they're meant to. That's not where they're meant to drive. So that is huge warning sign right there. One that
I,
is,
I
yeah,
thought
go
that
ahead.
that meant I could just measure even more tread width if I went all the way
Tire
down the
rotation.
sidewall,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah. If there's no pattern on it, that makes it tread, right? Yeah.
Right?
So
Yeah.
it's perfect.
Slick
Yeah.
sidewall
Yeah.
slicks.
There you go. Yep. Another thing that is less apparent, unfortunately, a lot of times is moving up the shoulder a bit more. So we've gone from sidewall to high shoulder area, and there's the junction between tread rubber and sidewall rubber, and you'll see a color change there very often, very frequently, and people will start to wear in that area, but it's not quite as noticeable. A, because there's a color change there already, and it becomes more apparent after you've been driving, track driving on the tire. They're dissimilar materials, and they react differently to that kind of heat. So you start seeing a more visible color change. But also for a lot of tires, I'll even say most tires, the tread pattern, the depth gets a little bit shallower as it gets out there to the shoulder. So it's a little bit more difficult to notice that you are overusing the outboard, I mean, even just like half inch, 1 inch. But that is very common as well. Especially again, if you don't have enough pressure, if you don't have enough wheel support, if you have a stock suspension and the body roll is rolling the tire out onto the outboard shoulder, you'll get a concentrated strip of wear. And sometimes it's not even all the way out to the shoulder. So you'll have tread pattern here and then tread pattern here. This is my shoulder going down to the sidewall. And then it looks like somebody just took an eraser and just whoop, wiped away the tread pattern in this narrow little band. We see that a lot, and it's not so painfully obvious to even experienced track drivers. But when you're there, you're at the end of the rainbow. You're almost to the Tootsie Roll center of the Tootsie Roll Pop. And you keep driving it like that, and it's going to start picking away. And next thing you know, you've got these looks like
Oh,
sunburn that you've peeled away, and they
I've
look
seen that
like
a lot.
blisters, kind of, right?
I've
And
seen that
that
a
is,
lot.
yeah, that's because the tread compound has gotten so thin there, that it can't withstand the force of what you're doing to it, and so it starts, like I said, picking away, and it moves. That work moves inboard, to where there is more tread material that can actually support the work. Um, Sorry, I'm getting long-winded, but it's kind of cool, at least to me anyway. We
Oh,
actually
it's awesome to us because I mean, for me, like I literally had one of my questions all about this, about the rollover of tire and I say that because Streets of Willow, right?
Mm,
So you do end up in tracks, Streets of Willow, Chuckwalla, um, across the US where you get these like high bank angle type situations where you're like
mm,
diving in. And so you do have to be a little bit cautious in that sense because like for me, I know you'll get I call them like speckles on the side of your sidewall that you can see like the track kind of very nudgingly touched the sidewall ever so gingerly because the track itself, and obviously if you have a 4,000 pound behemoth of a Mustang,
yeah.
um, it's and I don't have enough camber in my opinion on like the front tires and yada yada yada. But you get into those situations where you can get a little bit of that. But like you said, I've seen guys lower the tire, keep going. Oh, I need more grip. I'm not getting the grip out of these tires, and it's just
Mhm,
not. I'm gonna lower the tire pressure. Lower the tire. Oh, I'm down at like 26 psi down in that region, and you're like, whoa, that's really low.
mhm,
And I was gonna ask, you know, for the basic track guy just showing up, in the lower echelon of what he knows what they're doing in life. What do you throw out there as a quick recommendation to set their tire pressures to just start the day? Guys that drive to the track.
sure. A lot of times I would just say, whatever the placard pressure is, use that as your hot pressure. It's generally a safe, it's never going to be super duper low. Um, it honestly, what I will say first is, if you're just starting, just make sure you have enough pressure. Start worry about other
Make sure your
things
wheels are
before.
on your car.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you got it. That's step one. But yeah, when you get to that point, yeah, start hot pressure at placard is good. Of course,
Where
I have to give this.
when you say placard, where could people look for that?
Oh, sure.
Where did you
It's
find that?
it's it's on the door jamb. Open up the
Okay.
driver's side door, and it's got the white card with or your VIN and all that on it. Yeah.
And we wanted to bring that up just because, yes, we have obviously like super hardcore time attack guys with like massively wild and crazy builds. But obviously, we also have the guys that are just starting off and just trying to learn how to tune tires and deal with that. And I think one of the things that you said that kind of really perked my ears up is, you always hear in the paddock this whole thing about like, oh, I got to change my tire pressures, a PSI, 2 PS. Oh, a world of difference was made by that 1 PSI change. Oh my God, the car's driving magically now. And don't get me wrong, there are some people that they can feel that delta and they can just know, right? I'm
Mhm,
gonna put myself into the category of I can't. Like I could put 35 psi into the car. I could put 33 psi into the car, and I'm gonna be like, feels the same. Unless you get to 42, and then you're like, yeah, the car started feeling a little loose. It was
right.
getting a little weird.
Yeah.
But I'm just, I'm not that hypersensitive of a person. And as a failing of a driver, I will say this: I'm the type of driver that's like, I'll drive through it. I'll figure it out. I'm not
Mhm,
gonna come in and complain and whine and be like, oh, this is all bro. Like I'm gonna just try to drive through it and more so blame my driving than the car. But no, I really appreciate you sharing, that's a good starting point for guys just starting off and just getting that basic tire pressure to really set that up. Um, yeah, I I think Kilgore just typed out what I was thinking. So how much do you care about tire pressures? What's your thought on the pressure game
in
or
my
temperature? Sorry, temperatures.
Oh,
Oh,
temperatures. Oh,
yes. I can
it,
read, I swear.
that's that's fair. Almost every extreme performance summer tire, so not even 200, 200, 220, 240, almost everyone wants to be as cool as possible, but to the point where the compound has come on, essentially. Once it's there, now it wants to be as cool as possible. Essentially, every 200-ish treadwear tire, its fastest lap is the first lap, the first timed lap that we give it. There's a flyer, and then they come up to temp, and how they behave from there varies a lot. We were talking about RZ, Potenza RA71 RZ earlier. It falls off and then just plateaus. Some tires just incrementally lose a little, lose a little, lose a little. Some
Whoa,
will give
whoa,
you.
whoa, TJ. I've watched Time Attack. These guys are laying down heaters every other lap, and they are expecting to go faster every lap that they do. You're telling me that that is not the way that we should be time attacking?
Generally not. It'll depend on your tire, your setup, your driving style, but likely your best bet is going to be go out there on your gap lap and then hit it hard. Make sure you are on it on lap number 1, and then if you screw something up, do lap number 2. But at that point, you've probably missed your window. If you find more time in later laps than that, probably not tire related. It's probably that you have learned something, you have figured something out, you've solved the mystery.
The driver critique is coming their way, is what you
You need to have a real honest heart to heart with yourself when you get back to the paddock.
I always hate asking these like generalized questions because I know that there's not like a great answer, but I mean, can you give us some sort of idea in terms of when you're talking about that temperature? If you've only gone up 10 or 20 degrees in the temperature on, between lap 1 and lap 2, you still in a pretty good window? Or if you've gone up 50 degrees, right? Like, can you give us some sort of idea of a window? And you may just be able to say no, like it's so variable. But because I can see where that first lap, and I'm thinking right now I'm thinking a lot of the Club TR guys out of Grid Life.
Mhm.
These are lightweight cars, 2,400 pounds, your BRZs, your Honda S2000s. Those guys seemingly can pound around for 3 or 4 laps. Now, it may be because they're lighter cars. They're not increasing that temperature as much lap to lap. So I'm wondering how that plays into this effect that we're seeing where you could still see it's still in the window. It's not as cool as it would like to be. It's not 140 degrees. I'm just throwing out random numbers, right? But just to sort of give us an anchor point. It's not 140 degrees, or it's 140, then it's 150 on lap 2, then it's 155 on lap 3, 160 versus a big heavy Camaro that goes from 160 to 180 on lap 1, and then lap 2 you're pushing 200.
You're correct. Smaller, lighter weight cars, not over driving. You can those two things are big variables on how many good laps you get.
Sure.
And of course, like you said, you drive a big high horsepower heavy vehicle, you go out there, you spike the temps, and now that you got the good out of that session. And it varies differently from tire to tire. But yeah, if you're only seeing a 10-degree increase from lap 1 to lap 2, chances are they're both going to be solid laps. And how long you can keep that up, that's questionable.
Sure.
But yeah, for the club track rack guys, they have, I'll say, basically the ideal scenario for getting multiple fast laps out of your tires.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So I want to derail this conversation a little bit.
I'm in. Let's
But
go.
I don't want us to go too far off track because I do want us to come back to a lot of what we've been talking about. But this was just something that when you're going back to when you're talking about, looking at your placard, and that can at least be a good starting point, right? There are a few people who still drive their cars to track, but there's a lot of people who have tow rigs and they have trailers. And, give us some things that you think that people, don't look for or don't take care of in terms of actually their tow vehicles, their trailers, getting themselves to the track, which I know you guys probably, it's probably something that you guys have tested and you look at a lot, but it's not something that, we're all so concerned about on track performance, but it's never fun when you're on the side of the road and you've got a blown out trailer tire. And I would love to hear some of your thoughts or sort of some feedback on some of that stuff.
Of course. Trailer tires live essentially the worst possible life for a tire. They they are not thought about most of the time until they're causing you a problem. But they have a tendency to sit for extended periods of time. Tires have oils, emollients, conditioners mixed into the rubber compounds that help prevent aging, cracking, UV damage, that kind of stuff. But those additives make their way through the tire, through the flexing of the tire, through natural use. So when they're sitting stationary, your tires are sitting stationary for extended periods of time, those, again, ingredients that the manufacturer put in there, they're not doing anything for you, or they're doing very little for you. So you've got that scenario going on. A lot of times they sit outside in the sun, so they're exposed to all of the things that tires aren't supposed to be exposed to. A lot of times they are. I just drove this thing, a couple months ago, or even a couple weeks ago. It's fine. I don't need to check tire pressures. And you may have one or more tires that are underinflated. Being driven underinflated is a death sentence for a tire. It can be crockpot, to where it's a little bit underinflated for a long period of time, or it can be microwave, where it's a lot underinflated for a short period of time. But either way, you are moving toward a cooked tire. That's just all there is to it. So those are issues with storage and, when they're immediately being pulled out of storage into usage. But then when we get into actually driving, they are struck on curbs constantly. They are pivoted, and they get that sheer force when you're in a tight parking lot, and you're just pivoting your trailer tires. A lot of times people look at it as a necessary purchase, a begrudging purchase, and it's like, man, just give me the cheapest thing that you can. It's my trailer. Like, what am I going to do? And a lot of times that's a bad idea too. So because there are trailer tires of, dubious quality or lower quality out there, that they sell a bunch of them because they are cheap. So it's just this kind of perfect storm, I guess, of man, these things are destined. Poor little fella he never stood a chance, kind of thing. So yeah, maintain them, look after them, take care of them. If you buy tire covers for them, if they sit outside, because the more you take care of them, the more you pay attention to them, the better they're going to serve you over the long run.
Here at the Perfect Lab Podcast, we're happy to introduce Whoosh Bespoke Wheels as a sponsor of the show. Whoosh Bespoke was born out of necessity. Their race team struggled to find wheels that offer the perfect fit, strength, durability, and that big old thing, a reasonable price. The people behind Whoosh Bespoke are racers and engineers seeking engineering excellence, and they offer precision forged wheels crafted by racers for racers, with a product lineup that includes a wide range of options from monoblock to modular wheels, including 2- and 3-piece wheel designs, all engineered from the finest materials, although they do primarily use 6061 T6 forged aluminum, but they do offer things as high of quality as a magnesium alloy. So this really can work for any setup you're trying to go for. Customization is at the heart of what they do at Whoosh Bespoke. You can tailor your wheels with custom sizes, offsets, finishes, and even options like custom lettering, adding two-tones. Their colors include both standard and premium finishes, as well as special finishes like brushed, hand polished, and even paint to sample. Every set of wheels produced exceeds the JWL standards and meets the rigorous WCEC quality standards, and they are tested by real people with real cars racing all around the world. And guess what? Me and Kilgore, we're also going to be part of that team. So we're going to be putting these things to the test. We're putting them on our cars. Kilgore's going to be repping out and going through all the time attack season. I'm going to be beating them up at HPDE days and just having a good time with them. So I want you to go take a look at them and make sure you give them a follow on all their socials. It's whooshautomotive.com, Whoosh Automotive on all the socials. Go check them out.
Are there some certain things that you look for that people should look for? Again, kind of going back to Jaeger's question, what are some obvious issues, cracking on the side, cracking, things like that usually, or if if you can rub rubber off the tire, and it's
Yeah.
brittle, probably not a great thing. Don't send it. Don't just go, I'm just going to send it.
You got it. Also, bulges. Bulges in the sidewall are always unrepairable most of the time, 99% of the time, due to impact damage of some kind. It could have been a pothole or a curb that was hit 6 months ago and is just now getting to the point where it's exposing itself. It's not a question of if, it is when that is going to blow out. We don't know. You could get another, I'm not even going to say a number on it, but you could get more time out of it, or it could blow out in the next 30 seconds. So look for bulges on the sidewalls. Of course, interior sidewall as well. They don't just happen on the outside where it's easy to see. You got to shimmy under there and take a peek at that. Similarly, any kind of bulges in the tread. Also, if you see a patch of isolated irregular wear, that is because there's a separation somewhere in that tire. So that it's over. Take it out of service right now because it's going to blow out on you, and I guarantee you it's not going to be at a convenient time.
That's always an exciting experience.
Yeah. Yes.
I'll never forget our one guy, Roy. He decided to, trek from California to Road Atlanta and proceeded to blow out, I believe it was 5 trailer tires.
God.
It might have had something to do with him buying a gang load of linglongs, and let's just say he decided like 80 miles an hour was the best way to drive a
Oh.
double stacker full of fat old or new GTR and another car, and just tremendous blowouts, bad timing. Roy's a really smart guy.
I mean, you get there faster when you drive fast, though. So
Right, except for when you're sitting in the parking lot crying about your tires.
When you're stationary, it really hurts. That 0 miles an hour hurts the overall
Yeah,
average for the
that's right,
trip.
yeah.
So,
Brutal, let me tell you.
poor Roy. I hope he learned.
Not even remotely.
All right.
Not even slightly. So obviously we jumped onto the trailer tire game, which is hugely important, and I will say all these people trailer in. Did you say? Obviously, I'm going to say this. Do you have like a top 3 trailer tires that usually you steer to people?
The first choice is the Goodyear Endurance. Honestly, Goodyear saw, however long ago that was, I don't even remember how long, 5-6 years now at this point. They said, hey, there is absolutely a market for a high quality, well-made trailer tire. People are tired of buying these cheap things that blow out all the time. And so they really put R&D into that product. So that is, that's my top choice, honestly. Maxxis
I mean,
makes a good
to,
trailer
to your
tire.
to your point, TJ, if you were to ask me, I couldn't even tell you, right, like a good trailer tire.
Yeah,
So I mean, Goodyear's definitely realizing something quite obvious there that most people, like you said earlier, just throw I don't know what you got in the back, right? Like what's on site, what's in the store.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, and it's not something that is, um, glamorous. So it's not something that people really look into all that much. You don't see a whole lot of trailer tire testing. There, of
Yeah.
course, is industry testing. Things that the tires have to meet, and some of them pass with flying colors, and some of them pass by the skin of their teeth. And of
Yeah.
course, that's all proprietary stuff. It's nothing that makes its way to the public. But we have Tire Rack, being we have done our best to be very selective in the products that we carry. And yeah, we try to hit multiple price points for people, but nothing that is again of dubious quality. So yeah, it's tough to list more than 5 or so trailer tires. But yeah, the Goodyear Endurance is a good one. Maxxis makes it's called the M8008 Plus. And then Hankook also has a pretty good trailer tire. Those other two are, again, tier 2 or tier 3 products. So my go-to is absolutely that Goodyear.
Nice.
Very cool.
Well, I
Very
mean,
cool.
I appreciate you kind of diverging a little bit. Obviously, trailer tires are also important in the track day
Without a doubt.
goer's mindset. So, I mean, I appreciate
You're
that.
right, Jaeger, but at the same time, whenever I show up to a group at the track and they're sitting around talking tire trailers, that's usually my cue to leave. I'm like, I don't know if I want to be a part of that. That sounds like a boring conversation.
Hey,
Right.
man,
Next thing you
if
know,
you
they're going to
can't
bring up
make it there,
motor
you
oil.
can't win. You can't win if you're not there.
That's very true. Very true.
So let's jump back into it. Let's get into I'm going to go to the Enthusiast style tires, the 220. I actually, strangely enough, a coworker today at work asked me, "Hey, I got a Supra. I'm looking for a sweet tire to run." He goes, I think he said, what is it? The extreme contact. What is it? Sorry, this is not my style of tire. So extreme contact sport something.
02.
I'll go with it. He was like,
Yep.
what do you think about putting those on my Supra? And I said, I don't know, man. Sounds like a terrible idea to me because I go, how often do you drive it? He goes, it's a weekend car. And he goes, but I'm going to start taking it to the track. And I go, so if you only drive it on the weekends, means you're not putting very many miles on it. You sound like you want to have a really good, sticky, have a good time tire. My thought goes to why not go further? Why not go to a Super 200? Because why not? So kind of there's probably a lot of people in that same category because I've had this question asked to me a ton of times. Oh, I got P4S's, and I'm looking, should I buy those again? Should I? So what would be your switchover point that you say, you know, let's go with a bit more of an aggressive tire. And then what would be your stay? Obviously, keeping in the concept of we're more so talking about enthusiast class here a little bit later, but for just the regular HPDE guy, what would be that changeover point?
Generally, track use is going to be the pass fail. Continental Extreme Contact Sport 02, Michelin Pilot Sport 4S, those types of tires, they can be okay in track use. They are on the white list for Champ Car endurance racing. Andy Hollis from Grassroots Motorsports was part of making that white list, and he knows what he's doing. He is a professional driver, a very talented driver, and he can get good track use out of products like that. But for every one of those success stories, we get umpteen customers that go out there on those types of tires, which are real dedicated street tires. Those are, the manufacturers show, track cars on track in their advertising. And, we test them on our test track, I'll fully admit. But when it comes to like big road course style track use, uh, more often than not, especially on somebody that is either, sorry, people that are just starting, generally, they'll be kind of ginger on their tires and they don't necessarily run into problems. But then when you get up to that next little level where you're really pushing it, but you're not at the point where you understand, like, I'm overdriving my tires. When you're in that, oh, my tire's not turning, so I need to turn my wheel more type phase, that is where people run into a whole lot of trouble with those types of tires. Of course, that behavior, you can run into a whole lot of trouble with any tire.
Yeah.
But the 200 Treadwear stuff generally is designed with more endurance in a track environment, more endurance to the abuse of misdriving than something like an Extreme Contact Sport 02 or a PS4S. So if you are incredibly experienced, very good at tire management, at car management, sure, you can go out, you can do an HPDE, you can do a track night in America, you can have fun on a tire like that. But if you're not cognizant of what your tires are telling you, there's a good chance that you're going to destroy the outboard shoulder of the outer front tire, or maybe even both front tires in pretty quick succession. So yeah, if track use is in your future, I immediately go to one of the 200, 220 type treadwear tires.
Man, DJ, I gotta say, you are so nice to the shoulder of these tires. They must be your best friend. Man, you're always gonna
No,
look out for these shoulders.
I've been hurt by them over and over and over and over again because that's exactly it's just, again, it's this perfect storm of the vehicle's leaning it over, and that's right where that junction is, and that's right where we're concentrating all of this wear, and it's just like this poor little thing is just, they
I'm
go
gonna
kaput.
send you a photo. So we're gonna get into it. I swear, people. 200 treadwear tires. I'm gonna send you a photo of the Bridgestone RZs that I took out for the very first time to Buttonwillow Raceway and got my first crack at the RZs. And I'm gonna send you a picture of my shoulders, and you're gonna be like, "You moron."
I can't wait. Cannot wait.
Nice.
I will say I looked at it afterwards and I was like, oof.
How long has that been like that?
I mean, I literally put them on, trailered to the track. Sadly, I only got like 12 laps in before my car decided to wanna, as many have said to me so far, be a Mustang. And the charging system decided to, just crap out on me and try to blow everything up. And I had to call it a day after 2 sessions, basically. But so I have a little bit of experience. So we'll jump into it a little bit. Okay. So 200 treadwears. So your 200 treadwear tire testing, obviously this is something that many of people are hyper interested in. And I really want to ask the dumb question. And the dumb question is first up, what do you think about a literal metric ton of organizations use the metric of a 200 treadwear to denote for tire choices in classes? What is your thought on that? And you can say dumb as hell.
I'll say this. The good that has come out of it is that the tire manufacturers are unifying behind it out of necessity. It's kind of understood that 200 treadwear and 7/32 of an inch of starting tread depth is this tipping point, this cutoff. And so manufacturers that want to play in that space are building to right there.
Make a
Now,
demand, supply must follow.
there you go. Yes. Now, I don't want to say arbitrary, but my vocabulary is failing me, but the choice of 200 as the number, we all know that is
Shenanigans.
sure. Yes, the tires are tested, and there is a reference tire, and if the tire is projected to last twice as long as that reference tire, bam, 200 treadwear. You can put 200 treadwear on the sidewall, but you could also put 40 treadwear on the sidewall if you wanted to. You cannot overreport. The tire manufacturers cannot overreport, but they can underreport their number. So then marketing gets involved, of course. What do we want people to think about this tire? Also, when the tires are tested, it's a loop down in Texas, or it's usually a loop down in Texas. Some manufacturers don't use the loop. They have their own loop that they use that they have correlated back to the Texas loop. But when they're tested in Texas, they're run for 7,200 miles. The vehicles can be aligned, the tires can be rotated every 800 miles, pressures can be adjusted. So this is like absolute best case scenario for these tires. And it's also only 7,200 miles. Tires don't wear uniformly from when they are brand new until they are worn out. they wear faster when they are brand new than they do when they're near the wear bars. So this is at their time. These 7,200 miles are driven at the time when these tires are wearing at their fastest rate. So the engineers from the tire company take their measurements with their super duper scientifically precise tread depth gauges, and they figure out how much loss these tires have had, and then they extrapolate that. They say, okay, our tire is going to wear like this. The standard reference test tire is going to wear like this. And so our tire is going to last however much longer than the standard reference test tire, the SRTT, which is a real Uniroyal Tiger Paw tire that everybody has to use for tire testing. So now you've got the engineers that are extrapolating. You've got absolute best case scenario in terms of wear, because the vehicles have been maintained, the tires have been rotated, pressures have been checked. Then you get the legal departments, the marketing departments all involved, and we come up with this number that is allowable on the sidewall. And as you may expect, every tire manufacturer has a slightly different way of doing this. Like I said, some manufacturers don't even use the loop in Texas. They have their own that they've correlated back. So they're just all of these variables out there. The industry self polices that number. NHTSA basically just says, all right, fill out this form and submit it, and okay, you're good. And so they don't do any kind of verification, anything like that. So it's a little bit Wild West. It's a lot bit Wild West. And especially the fact that people can underreport. So, I mean, I don't want to call out anybody by name, because I've not talked to the engineers and said, hey, what would your tire actually do? But some of those longer life 200 Treadwear tires are probably 400 plus Treadwear tires, to be completely honest. So yeah, the number itself, I don't know, I guess it's something.
Yeah. I mean, you got to put a number on it. I always say this, right? You just got to put a number on it at some juncture.
Right.
I'm going to run into a little bit of a rant right now and say, I still like, and we'll talk about it a little bit, but it blows my mind that the 60 to 100 Treadwear tire market has been completely neglected. All we care about is the 200 Treadwear. No one cares about the 60 to 100. It is a complete wasteland. But we'll get into that a little bit more. But okay, so 200 Treadwear, we kind of get an idea now where it's coming from. Obviously, the manufacturers are catering to it because there's a huge amount of interest from a plethora of different organizations that are using this as a benchmark to say these are what people have to compete with and utilize. Obviously, when we start talking about the 200 Treadwear marketplace, there's a variety there. You got like the Yokohama Advan, the AO52s, the CRSs, the Bridgestone, the RE71 RS, RZs, Rivals, RT660 plus 7 9 pluses. There's a lot of pluses in there. The Goodyear Supercar Eagle Super. Why do the names just keep getting bigger?
Oh my gosh! Don't even get me started on that. Like, nope. We have our standard spreadsheet that we use for all of our testing, and a lot of the names have gotten to the point where we had to expand the size of that field. No, stop it. Like, but what are we gonna do? We're not the marketing department, so I mean.
So I will say this. I know I'm going off on tangent, but the Kuma X's V730s, I tried a set of those. Hugely impressed by them, because maybe it's because I went into it with it's like going to watch a movie, right? You get all these you get all this preview and you think this is gonna be the best movie ever, so your expectation is so high, and the movie was just okay, so the movie sucked. I went into the Kumos as these are gonna suck, and I instantly came out so gratified. And even on my Mustang, I was running 275s, which is a terribly undersized tire for how fat that car is. And I was running this kind of gives you an idea of the tires that I run on the Mustang. I ran Federals for like the better part of years between like doing some stuff with Federals. and so this was probably the best tire that I've used on that Mustang, because I went and ran like the Vitor Enzos, the Federal RSRRs, the Federal whatever RS Pros, bunch of things. And then I tried the Kumos, and I was running better lap times than I'd ever run before, even on a 275. And now I picked up a set of the RZs, the Bridgestone Potenza RZs, and so let's get into it. The Bridgestone Potenza RZs. I picked those up. I put those on the Mustang. I went to Button Willow, and as you were kind of talking about earlier, in terms of needing a heat cycle into them, I did go out in the very first session of the day. I basically like gingerly warmed them up, and I had a passenger in the car, my nephew, and so I was just kind of having fun. I wasn't necessarily worried about going fast. Best lap time I've done in the Mustang is like 56, and that first session I did like a 2-minute lap. The second session I went out, and kind of that's when my alternator or something in my Mustang decided to crap the bed. So I only got 2 sessions. In that second session, I only got it down to a 58. So that's where I was curious, and me and Kilgore kind of hypothesized previously that maybe it had something to do with needing to kind of heat cycle and rest for a little bit before getting out there and doing the thing. So kind of give us some of your impressions of the uh, Bridgestone Potenza RZ. Obviously, you have a lot of test data, so kind of and I'm gonna tell you right now, I got the wrong tire size on the frickin' RZs. I they need to be a 35 sidewall, and I it's my fault. I asked for a 35. The guy sent me back. He said, "Hey, I can get you these." I thought he got what I asked in a 35. He sent me a 30. So my Mustang was
Short.
too low. It was literally like bottoming out. Button Willow is mean to that car. But I digress. So give us some impressions of the RZ, and tell me what I did wrong. Please, God.
Sure. It's on yours, there are a lot of variables there. We of course always test same day, same size, all that kind of good stuff. We at our most recent test up at Gingerman, we had a Monday through Friday, and then we ended up the following Tuesday testing as well, which was the Tuesday after Memorial Day. And we run a constant control tire, a similar control tire during our warm-up runs, just to kind of A, dust off the track, B, get ourselves warmed up, and C, kind of get a feel for what the track is like. So our identical tire from Friday till Tuesday, there was a 3-second difference between them. So what happened at Gingerman over the Memorial Day weekend? Well, a million different clubs were out there, including drifters. There was a weekend drift event that happened at Gingerman, and I've nothing but their talent is amazing. The car control of drifters is amazing, but they put down so much rubber on the track that it's never the same afterward. So it is really difficult to compare tire A, a month ago versus tire B today. And especially, if you've got a different size, the shorter sidewall is going to affect your gearing.
Yep.
Like you said, you're bouncing off the bump stops or bouncing off the underside of the car, or, whatever the case may be.
I will say this, TJ, literally bouncing off the underside of the car, hitting. And I will say this too, just to be very, very clear. I looked at my data, and we're talking about a delta in temperature of 25 degrees hotter for the Bridgestone. So, needless to say, I had maybe a little lofty of a goal in terms of, because I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I was like, I'm gonna run a 55. Like, this is gonna be
Sure.
an easy slam dunk 55 on these new tires. And I can say this, in looking at my driving as a whole, like you said, probably one of the things that affected me the most was the gearing. The gearing was so far off. Like, it took me that entire first session to kind of recalibrate my brain to go, wait, why am I shifting again? So sorry to cut you off, TJ. Go for it.
No, no worries at all. And I mean, especially if it's your home track on your car, it's muscle memory at this
Yep.
point. Like, you're just, this is where I shift. Because what do you mean? Of course, this is where I shift. And now that's different. So, there were a lot of variables there. You and I were talking before we started, and we always heat cycle all of our these types of test tires. We give them a proper tire rack heat cycle, so they get up to operating temperature. We allow them to rest for greater than 24 hours before they are then installed and ever driven. So I don't have direct experience on the sticker effect of the Potenza RE71RZ at this point in time. So I can't speak intelligently to, does it need a scrub or an actual heat cycle, or, what's the case. On one of the enthusiast forum that I lurk. One of our friend Bridgestone engineers is somewhat active there, and he was talking about that tire specifically. They found that the texture of the tire, the RZ in particular, um, it has a big impact on traction. So they will always give them some kind of run in before they ever start testing with them, because
Hmm.
the complete smooth surface of a brand new right out of the mold tire is different than one that has some of that use, some of that texture on it. So it could be that. Also, of course, um, tires, when they're manufactured, like we talked about with trailer tires, there are all kinds of additives, oils, that then can and do bloom to the surface during transit, during storage. So until you get through that, thin layer of not grippy tread rubber, there's always, that variable as well. So unfortunately, I can't give you a with certainty, this is what happened. It sounds like there are a lot of possibilities, a lot of stacking of tolerances. And I hope that your next experience is much more satisfying with them, because we
As long as
were satisfied when we tested it. Anyway, go on. What?
I'll say, as long as next time I drive that freaking car, the electrics actually stay on, I still have electric power steering, and the engine runs, it'll be a good one. So
Yeah, yeah.
I do plan. I will say this: I do plan to probably my next track day with that tire will be streets, and just not that anyone cares, but I did a 1 minute 22 best time with the Mustang, and I plan to basically go out and see how that differs. And I have the good thing, like you said, right? Every day is a different day of the track. The only way you can do a direct comparison is quite literally to do them in the same day, and obviously you're really trying to get them in around the same time frame as quick as possible. So that's where I generally try to look at it. I have, luckily for me, I collect data like you wouldn't believe. So I'm able to essentially look back and do comparison over a large delta of time, and I can
Mhm.
find similar, track conditions, situations, yada yada yada, to find at least some level of similarity and do some comparative analysis there to understand. And that's where, like I said, I looked at this really quickly and I went, yeah, I really can't compare this data. If I would have got to run the entire day and kind of build up and this, that, and the other, I could have felt a little bit more confident in my results. But I didn't. So that's where. So TJ, break us down, man. So what was your results? Do tell.
This hasn't been published yet, so
Oh,
it's
first time
it's
here.
yeah, first time hearing it. So we for this test we ran specs A, B, C, D, and then in the morning, and then we switched to spec D, C, B, A. So spec A got the coolest, best temperature, and then also the hottest, most beaten up track, and then progressing there with spec D being worst morning conditions and best afternoon conditions, yada, yada, yada. So we found the fastest morning lap, fastest afternoon lap, and then average for total lap throughout the day. In the cool conditions, uh, we tested, sorry, going back, we tested Potenza RE71RZ, the Tempesta P1P01R, Tempesta P1X01R, and the Advan A052. So kind of the heavy hitters in the space. We did get the fastest lap from the Potenza RE71RZ in the morning. It was the first spec we drove, and it went right out there, and it was fast. It was very fast. Um, in the afternoon, it dropped a little bit of time, because like I said, it was at the very end of the
Worst.
day then at that point. So we did see fall off, and honestly, all of the tires fall off from
Yeah.
morning sessions to afternoon sessions. So it wasn't.
Do you
Yep.
have a delta of lap time that you can? I'm trying to be reasonable in this construct. Do you have like a average thought process of like what is the delta of lap time from that morning session to afternoon session that you guys usually see in all your tire testing stuff?
It really varies from tire to tire.
Okay.
I know that's a cop out, but as an example, when we tested the Hankook Ventus RS4, it was like 0.2 of a second. But then, like the Hoosier Track Attack Pro, it was like 1.7 seconds.
Wow.
So it really, really varies from tire to tire. They
Man,
don't all
Kilgore.
respond to conditions the same way.
Now I know why Bailey Woods does not go out in the afternoon on the Track Attack Pros. Bailey, you just got found out, bro. So our guy Bailey Woods, he has won overall fastest lap time at 2 different track events, and in both of those track events, he ran the first 2 morning sessions and never touched the afternoon sessions, and he runs exclusively on the Track Attack Pros.
Yep. We when it's not something that we are specifically seeking out to find, we don't try to get definitive.
Yeah.
And, that is something that, so we're kind of anecdotal with it. But last year, our track test was hot. It was a hot day, and Track Attack Pro underperformed compared
Wow.
to expectations, compared to the competitive set. It wasn't fast. Jonathan from Tire Reviews and Andy from Grassroots Motorsports had both driven it. They were both fast on it. We were like, yeah, this is going to be awesome. And no, it wasn't. But it was like 90 plus degrees and sunny when it was out there. And then this year in the morning, it was nice, cool. It was fast. But then the afternoon session, when it had warmed up, the track had warmed up, it fell off quite a bit. So again, it's just a couple data points, but we are finding that tire probably doesn't like heat very much. So it would make sense that Bailey only drives in the morning, sets the fastest time of day, and then kicks back and enjoys a Mai Tai or whatever it is that
He
that you do. So
That man's enjoying his champagne as he sips it from his victory shallot.
right, yes, absolutely. Yeah, well, good for him. That's not a bad way to do it. Get in, get your trophy, and yeah. Anyway, so Potenza RE71RZ had the fastest time in the morning. The Advan A052 had the fastest time in the afternoon. And it also, Advan
Interesting.
A052, had the fastest average time throughout the day. Uh,
Really?
Tempesta P1 P01R, great to drive. It's actually a really nice tire on our M2. Didn't quite have the pace for us, which I've got some theories behind it, but that's neither here nor there. X01R, when Andy tested it, he found that it was in fact the same pace as P01R, which is what the manufacturer says
What is
it's
the
supposed to
difference
be.
between the two?
It's a compound update.
Activation.
Yep. Yeah. The X is supposed to come on right away. So probably better for autocross type settings. And we absolutely found that. P01R didn't fully feel like it came in until probably the second turn of its first timed lap. It was getting there. It was most of the way there, but it wasn't 100% of the way there. But then it stayed very consistent for essentially all of our timed laps. X01R was on right away. It gave us one good lap that ended up being, looking at my numbers here, yep, 0.4 of a second faster than the P01R, but that was it. We got one,
One
and
heater.
That was it. And then it did not come back. Our format is I go out and drive. We start at a low pressure in order to hit our target hot pressure. So I go out, warm up the tires, get them up, do my timed laps. Then we come in, we switch. My co-driver gets in the driver's seat. I get in the passenger seat. We bleed down, because usually we're within 1 to 2 psi of our target pressure at that point. So we bleed down to hit our target pressure right on the nose. Then he goes out and drives his laps. So most tires, I will have my flyer, my first time lap. I get the glory lap, woohoo! And then you'll start seeing fall off as temperatures and pressures go up. Some tires more than others, whatever. Then he gets in, and he is essentially consistent from that point forward. But with X01R, however, I got mine. It fell off. We come in, we bleed. He kept falling off.
Oh.
It would not come back within the confines of our testing protocol. It is just, that was it. It was one done.
I wish I would have paid attention a little bit more. I have a set of the Vitors on my Cayman, and I tried those out at Streets, and I will give them a very glowing review in the sense that I was very pleased with them. They worked very well. I do tend to like a tire that's a little bit on the stiffer sidewall side, especially on a Cayman that I only have like 1 degree of negative camber in the front.
Sure. Right.
So that's a little bit more of a benefit there. But I mean, obviously, it's kind of one of those strange things, but literally, I was a tenth of a second delta between. I literally ran the Mustang and the Cayman same day, morning in the Mustang, afternoon in the Cayman, and was a tenth of a second off in the Cayman from the Mustang, which, when the Cayman costs like double what the Mustang costs, it
Right.
should be the same lap time, I guess.
I suppose.
I mean, it's just a Cayman S. It's not like anything fancy, but it's a beautiful car to drive. But
It's got half the cylinders.
it does have, but it has a turbo.
Right. Okay. So 718 came in S then.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
and I will say though, like those tires, I was very, very pleased with them. I almost put those on the Mustang, but in true tire rack fashion, I was like, no, I can't put the same tires on both cars. I want to test some stuff out, because I will say, I've used I will ask you this: I have used the Nankang CRSs one time on the Mustang, and I despised them. I thought they were I hated the sidewall on it. They just didn't feel good on the car. I drove faster on the Vitor Enzos than I did on the CRSs, which makes zero sense.
Right.
But I think it's a little bit of a situation where, I don't know, maybe I was just lowering the pressures too low and just not running them right. But again, like I after this Bridgestone, I want to try out the AO52s. That's my next goal tire. Again, I have a desire to just try out the new hotness of tires, right? TJ, you get the bona fide luxury of getting to test these bad boys out all the time. These things ain't cheap, that's for sure. And
You're right.
guys like me just want to, I do like to have that feel. And this is probably the most of our viewers, right? It's very expensive to go out and buy tires and do tire testing to see which one you like. I've definitely, so interesting facet for you, TJ. I've definitely ran into people, and one guy in particular at the Ridge last year was like, I have a set. At that point, he had a set of Nankangs, a set of Potenza 71 RSs, and a set of AO52s, I believe, if I remember correctly. And he was going to run them all that weekend to test them out, to see which one he liked the best.
Which is awesome. I mean, good for him. The problem, as I see it, though, is those 3 tires all want a different setup and all perform differently. So you got to change the car along with it. I mean, the Advan A052, like I said, it was very fast for us this test, fastest average lap time throughout the course of the day. This was also the first test where it really had not quite its ideal setup, but closer to it. Because last year when we tested it, it was hot. We had no camber in the car. Our wheels, we run a 2.5 or a 10.5 on a 275 tire, which isn't pinched but isn't stretched by any means. And that's, kind of worst case scenario for the A052. It wants a wide wheel. It wants a lot of negative camber, and it wants to be cool. It does not like heat. So last year's test, I mean, I'll fully admit it, it was not optimized for the AO52 to win.
I was gonna say you guys took some heat last year when we all started seeing the test come out, and we were like, the AO52s are like halfway down. Like, what is going on?
Yep.
So, but I think that only just demonstrates how finicky some of these can be to set up, which is
Mhm.
exactly your point, TJ.
Yep, undoubtedly. And this year it was cooler. We've got some negative camber in the car. Still same with wheels, but we also did our skid pad test to help us optimize the pressures on those. So AO52 finally had the conditions to where it could strut its stuff and do its best, and it absolutely did this year. Part of my hypothesis of why the P1 was a bit down from where we expected it to be. We never have expectations, but based on previous testing, you kind of get an idea. It seems like we may have had too much camber for it to be happy.
No.
Looking at the wear results, there was some wear on the very outboard edge because I mean nobody's immune to abusing shoulders. But then most of the outboard element had very very little wear, and there was more concentrated on the inboard ribs, which is not ideal. But so we just it showed us that we were using more of the inboard, which means you've got more negative camber than the tire wants based on all of the other things, the pressure, your spring rate, your body roll, all of that kind of good stuff. Kind of indicated that maybe that tire wanted a slightly different setup. And so that is,
I will say
yeah.
that generally tracks with the information that I've got from Dallas Reed when I was talking to him, I ran the Vtor P1s last year on the M4.
Mhm.
And normally, right, you've got a BMW, you're getting as much front camber as you can get in that thing,
Certainly.
right?
Yep.
If you're looking for over 3.5 degrees,
Yeah, if you
right?
give me 6, I'd take it most of
Yeah,
the
right,
time.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It's not uncommon to have a minus 4.12 something right in there, and
Mhm.
he said, "No, no, no," he said, "Back it off." He was like, 3.5 max. He was like, "These things don't need as much camber as you normally think." So that at least somewhat correlates with what, some of the advice has been coming from someone who I presumably would understand what the tire wants.
Certainly. Yeah, he has done lots of testing and been a
Yeah,
party to
yeah,
lots of testing on those tires. So
yeah,
yeah, nobody would know better what those want.
yeah.
But it that just it goes to show like you can't, in a testing scenario like your guy was at the ridge, you can't optimize for every tire. And that's, I mean, I love our testing. I have complete faith in our testing because, like I said, I stay up, I lose sleep at nights thinking about it. But also, it is a data point that gets you most of the way there. We can tell you that, yeah, the tire X is way behind, and that these top 3 tires are the ones that you want to look at. But you're going to find differences through optimizing your vehicle. You're going to find differences by using a tire that matches up with your driving style. Jaeger, like you said, you do not like the way the CRS drives. I specifically remember using the word disjointed in my notes when I drove that tire. It feels wonky. Who loved that tire was Jackie Ding.
Yep.
Jackie loved that tire. For a long time, Andy Hollis's fastest lap at Harris Hill was a set of CRSs that were worn down almost to the wear bars, because that's a tire that keeps getting faster as it wears. So it's all about your preferences. Well, that's our thing, is your priorities and what, where, and how you drive. And in testing, of course, we, like you said, it's very very expensive, and we get the big strokes out of the way. And if you're not looking to eke out the last tenth, then yeah, just follow what we say, and that's easy button, and you're good. And we're not going to steer you wrong. I promise you that. But if you are the super serious competitor, and you are looking to maximize everything, like I said, that it's 95+% of the way there, and then you're going to have to figure out that
Yeah.
that last little
Yeah.
bit.
And let me throw one other thing there again, just to throw another wrench into all of this, which is, and we haven't talked about it, but the track surface can play a pretty big deal in this.
Yep.
When you're talking about something like a Gingerman, right? Especially, for the last couple of years when I've been doing the grid life circuit, the Gingermans, the CMPs, sort of those club level, I'll throw Button Willow, right? These very grainy, kind of gritty track surface. The asphalt isn't great
Mhm.
versus going to a Road America, a Watkins Glen, a pro level track. That can have a pretty significant effect on how the tires react. And I've seen guys, you know, it just sort of, I have not run them, but watching and seeing what has worked, people tend to find that the AO52s work better on those lower grip tracks versus some of the others, especially like where the P1. I had a heck of a time getting the P1s to turn on at CMP,
Mhm.
but then at a Road America, man, they felt great, right?
Yep.
Again, but you're also talking about two completely different tracks, two completely different configurations. So that again is just another huge variable that's, someone says, you know, the AO52s, weren't great. I didn't like them. Yeah, I drove on them once and they were just awful. Well, okay. Uh, don't know what to tell you. There's a lot of reasons for that. But I kind of want to go back to something with the RZs, especially when they first started coming out this year. I think that there was quite a bit of surprise that they weren't significantly faster. When I say significantly faster than the RSs, right? I'm talking about half a second or more.
Mhm.
You know, they seem to be fairly close in time. And then what sort of started to come out from the testing, which is exactly something you touched on, TJ, which was the RZs, and I'm sorry if I said RSs earlier, but I'm talking about the RZs. The RZs, um, about the same speed, maybe a touch faster in terms of lap times, but the fall off, like, they come down just a little bit in terms of lap time, but those next laps are just rock solid. That plateau is very strong. It doesn't continue to fall off. So give us a little bit of, is that the case that you guys have seen? Are you seeing something different? Sort of what's your take on that in terms of outright speed of the RZ over the RS as compared to the longevity of the lap times over, I guess, over your average lap time, which I think is sort of how you guys look at that.
Yep, you're correct. It it was a bit of a shock for the enthusiast community as a whole. I mean, the not throwing Bridgestone under the bus, but the press release said what, like 3/4 of a second faster
Yeah,
on
around
Superbus.
Tsukuba. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I wonder which laps those were. Is this laps 10 and 11? Is this laps 1 and 2? Of course, we don't know the protocol. Of course, any competitive climb like that has to be run through legal departments. That's just the way it is with tire manufacturers. So
Lawyers are the worst.
yeah, right. So I'm
I'm that guy.
oh, that's fine. I don't mind. So, um, whatever their protocol were, their process for coming up with these claims, it certainly was vetted probably multiple times. So I don't think it's in any way it was false or misleading or anything like that. It was, probably just, data that was selected. Um, you know, anyway,
It's
so
a technically true statement, but it may be a little misleading if people assume certain things, right? I mean,
I
and I think that's where we fell into the trap of, oh, we just see 3/4 of a second. This thing's going to be ridiculous. It's gonna be the new hot tire, and then we start seeing some of the other testing here in states, and we're like, ugh, wait, what?
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. And, we found, and it sounds from our previous conversation, it sounded like you already watched the RZ versus RS preview drive that had the
Mhm.
M2 and the BRZ. So sorry, this is going to be a repetitive for you because this is basically the same spiel that I gave in the video. But the first time we tested RZ, all Bridgestone could get us were some used pre-production prototype tires in technically the wrong size for our M2. So we wore down to best we could a set of RSs to match those RZs, and then we tested them. And we didn't, in that very, very first video, we didn't actually publish lap times because they were so close. It was a tenth of a second faster. RZ was consistently a tenth of a second faster, though. We had my co-driver Brent and I drove them on one day on the M2, and that's what we found. Both of us found the exact same thing. And then, like 2 days later, we had Chris Harvey, who's a guy that works here also. He's a nationally competitive autocrosser, also time trial driver, endurance racer. He's a very talented driver. So we had him come out, and he and I drove together on a different day. Exact same thing. All three of us across different days found this tenth of a second difference. But man, our laps, we always shoot for each pair of laps that we run to be within 0.2 of a second of one another. So a tenth is, it's getting there to where it's like there are so many variables here with the used tires and the unknown heat cycles and wear and all that it's like a tenth of a second. We're not really comfortable making that claim publicly and saying yes, these are our results. But then fast forward, and we drove them on the BRZ and the M2 new to new. Once again, the RZ is consistently a tenth of a second faster. And again, that is minuscule. I would normally say that's within the noise of our testing, but to have it happen so consistently, so many times in different vehicles, different drivers, all of that, it's like, yeah, I mean, I am now confident that these are our results. These are good results. This is not due to some kind of outside, factor, driver error, anything like that. So yeah, I mean, that's not much.
Well,
It's
yeah.
a tenth of a second for professional drivers on their home track, doing what they do almost every day. So 3/4 of a second, we didn't find it. The wear, though, is everything that Bridgestone says it is. It seems to be. We, like I said, we did this the Gingerman test. We included the RZ in the group of Super 200s. We also included the RZ in a test with Track Attack Pro and Goodyear Eagle F1 Supercar 3R, the 100 Treadwear version of that tire. And one was in an 18-inch size, one was in a 19-inch size. And man, the wear in both tests, the RZ wore noticeably better than any of the other competitors, and actually wore very, very similarly across both days for us in those two different sizes. It seems like they are dollar per lap equation has gone way up. The value there has gone way up without losing any speed, at the very least, without losing any speed and potentially gaining a little bit of speed along the way.
I was gonna
So
say,
so
TJ,
yeah,
like
go ahead, Jaeger.
I was gonna say that was kind of some of the feedback that I'd gotten from other drivers was the RZ was, basically just as fast as the RS, but you're gonna get more time out of them. And comparing them to like an Advan, an AO52, or a CRS or something of that nature, you're gonna get a lot more time. And when I say a lot more, I mean that's relative to what we're talking about, but you were gonna get a lot more time out of them. And to somebody who's, especially to somebody who's, driving to the track, driving on the track, driving home from the track, and wanting to do that a multitude of times, that seems like a very good value proposition, which is a big leg up for the RZs in comparison to their competition. So, I mean, that's they might not have met their target in a, 3/4 of a second delta between the RSs and the RZs. But like you stated, like if the wear factor is at an exponentially better level and we can get more out of them, value proposition as everything here in the world has gone up considerably. I mean, I don't want to hear nothing from Kilgore. Where are you at again, TJ? You're in Michigan?
Indiana.
Northern Indiana. Yeah.
Northern Indiana? Okay.
Yeah, South
I
Bend.
don't want to hear nothing from you guys as I'm talking and looking over at $6.57 a gallon at the pump. So everything in the world is just
But
expensive.
You got those nice views, Jaeger. You got the nice views.
Yeah, I got Willow Springs 5 minutes from the house, TJ. That's my
There
view.
you go.
I mean, that's a pretty good consolation prize.
So let's throw this whole value proposition of the RZs out the window. And maybe Bridgestone has actually done exactly what they wanted, which was for people who want these tires to last and to be able to produce consistent lap times for the track day enthusiast. Check mark, right?
Yep.
That's good.
Yep.
Now, let's throw that value proposition out the window. We have seen that these things get unbelievably fast when there is next to no tread left on them.
Yes.
So for the time attackers out there, right?
Yes.
We're now talking about getting these tires, and this was actually something that we also talked with Jonathan Benson. He mentioned the same thing, where you're now almost looking, if you want the most competitive tire, you're talking about basically taking something like an RZ, you're wanting to shave it down to 3 to 30 seconds somewhere, maybe somewhere around in there. Andy Hollis's testing just came out in the Grassroots Motorsports website, where he was testing some of these things, and they took an RZ that they did in one lap. It was down to 2:30 seconds, and it was significantly faster than the new RZ was. So talk to us about that, as well as not only with the RZ, but what you guys are seeing across the Super 200s and just the 200s generally. And if that is something that is interested to people, can they get that through Tire Rack? Can they order up a set of tires that are going to be ready to go out of the gate? And that may actually affect in terms of, what we were talking about earlier, where you want to put a heat cycle on them and let them rest. If they're worn, if you've already shaved them down, that may be less of a concern. I don't know. I'm not sure there. So I know I've thrown a bunch of stuff at you there.
Sure.
So give us your thoughts.
Of course, absolutely. All right. So with respect to shaving and heat cycling, does Tire Rack provide that? Yes, absolutely. That is a service that we provide. You're right that it seems like for a nationally competitive time attack driver, if you want to order a set of tires and slap them on and be as fast as possible, yeah, get them shaved and have them heat cycled beforehand.
And that's where I say that maybe Bridgestone hit both sides of the coin, because now they're actually selling tires that aren't going to last as long for the nationally competitive guys, and we're going to be buying 3, 4, 5 sets in a year, but you're also getting the long-lasting effects as well for the track day enthusiasts. So maybe Bridgestone did exactly what they wanted.
Yeah, I mean, it hits both markets, and for the the track enthusiast, they also get the added psychological benefit of it keeps getting faster and faster and faster the more they drive on it. So right as it's time to replace it is when it's fastest, and you think, wow, I just set my fastest lap time I've ever had. I need to buy these again. You get that dopamine hit, and it's like, all right,
Absolutely.
I want another one. Let's backtrack a little bit, just with respect to shaving, because I need to throw this caveat out there. Tires aren't like a steel drum that is perfectly uniform in terms of run out throughout, all the way around the circumference of the tire. So we won't shave a tire down below 4/30 seconds of an inch, because there's just too big of a risk of getting into the undertread of the tire and ruining a tire. And now we got to start all over again. So 4/30 seconds shaved, throw a heat cycle on it. The lower tread depth will change the thermal characteristics of the tire. It will change how quickly it comes up to temperature, how long it stays in its happy temperature window, because with less tread depth, there's less tread squirm, which means less heat buildup. So it does change those characteristics. But any of the things that we already talked about, the oils and that sort of thing that are coming to the surface, the sometimes first heat cycle magic of a tire, those kinds of things will generally remain consistent even on a shaved tire. So
Okay.
even if you get it shaved, I would still recommend throwing the heat cycle on it, so it's as expected right out of the box. Um, so that covers the Bridgestone, but just because we as a community didn't talk about it all that much, 5 years ago, this actually was still a bit of a thing in the recent past as well. Uh, A052 has a tendency to get faster as it wears. Maybe not all the way down to the wear bars, depending on who you talk to, but certainly a very worn AO52 will have more pace than a brand new set. Nankang Sportneck CRS gets faster as it wears. That tire's been around for quite a while, so it ideally would have been shaved before, if you wanted to be as fast as possible. The Tempesta P1 seems to just stay even throughout its entire life. So it's one that I don't recommend that you shave. I don't think it's a good use of your money. So this has always. I mean, this has been around for a while. I mean, honestly, it has kind of always been around because that's where our shaving machines came from. They're actually repurposed BFG race tire shaving machines from 30 years ago or more. So this has always been a thing. It just hasn't always, been quite so public as it is now.
Man, so I have to. I love talking 200 treadwear tires. I absolutely do. We crushed it talking about them. I really want to jump into the topic really quickly of the 60 to 100 treadwear tires
Oh yeah.
because I want to get your impression, TJ. Why do you think tire manufacturers just don't care about this segment?
Well, it's kind of a ruberous snake eating tail. The enthusiast community primarily is focused on 200 treadwear tires. And if you're not in 200 treadwear, you're at like a Hoosier type tire
Slick.
generally. And so the others are in this little in between space, where it's like, yeah, these are really good tires for track day drivers, for people that just want to go out there and don't have any rules, and just want to be as fast as they can. The Goodyear Eagle F1 Supercar 3R is a tire that I have recommended over and over and over again for that purpose, because it is such a great tire. The issue with that tire, though, is availability, because since it doesn't have a huge demand out there in the market, Goodyear doesn't manufacture it all that often, aside from the OE sizes for the ZL1. Um, so it's this weird little in between space, but there is volume there for the OE products. The poster child for this is the Pilot Sport Cup 2. It's generally a 180-ish or sometimes below treadwear tire in its OE fitment. They're all specially tuned for the OE application. Everything from rubber compounds to tread depth to void spacing and depth. Just they tweak these things all over the place. And the people that buy the cars that come with those things as original equipment like them very much, and they're tuned for the car. They're custom designed for this vehicle, so it's easy to understand why. And there is a lot of interest from that clientele. It generally doesn't, make its way onto our radar, us as the enthusiasts that are on this podcast, just because they don't fit into any of our rule sets. The places that we play say, sorry, these aren't these aren't allowed. So
Yeah, I mean, It's just always so interesting to me because obviously coming from, I remember back in the good old glory days of the Nitto NTO1, and just
Yep.
that was just such a good tire. Everyone loved it. What's the freaking one tire that everybody loved and it's slow as all balls?
Your beard was a
Proxys R888R.
Yeah,
there you go,
yeah, that one.
Sorry, Mark, what were you saying about his beard? I wanted to hear that story.
Jaeger's beard was a little less gray back then when he was running the
Right.
NTO1s.
Yeah, that R888 though, and you had the Nitto NTO1 and the R888, and that's where people were using. And I've always just waited, like, when are we gonna get the NTO2? Like, like it's just always an interesting conundrum for me, where like all they had to do was take that tire, make it a better compound that's just faster, immediate. I'm not saying a huge amount of sales, but there's a track day group that's always looking for that, like, DOT road tire, and especially out here in Southern California, where it's like, hey, if I can put it on the street, I'll run it on the street. I'm gonna ask this question. I'm gonna flashback real quick second. So, TJ, if you can do Amy any favors in life, 305 35 18, just suggestion to any tire manufacturer. One of the reasons why I'm going to try the Advan AO52 is because they make that tire size.
Okay. That's like us picking a test vehicle. Tire size is,
Yes.
It is essential.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because if you can't get tires for your car, then what's the point?
Yeah,
absolutely.
But,
All right, 305 35 18. I'll let them know.
Do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, super interesting in terms of the Hunter Treadwear gameplay, which in my opinion is that it has hurt the time attack scene and overall, like, competitive time trial scene exponentially, because we're making these rules based on treadwear, and then we end up in this situation where we have this theory that, like, I'm going to go from this tire treadwear to this tire treadwear to this tire treadwear, and we're going to see seconds of gap between all of them. And then again, going back to our favorite guy, Bailey Woods, he's running in a limited class where he's supposed to be running like a 60 treadwear tire, and he's running an AO52, or sorry, a Time Attack Pro. Excuse me.
Track Attack Pro. Yeah.
Track Attack Pro.
Yeah. Yep.
And there's multiple people who are running the RZs and
Yep.
in limited, or which is a testament to how good they are. But it is, which we've said before, it's disappointing that you don't have that differentiator and speed just based on tire, because it would be nice.
Yeah,
it would be nice.
I mean, it is nice. I know. Have you tested those Vitor Sonics yet? Have you got your hands on a set of them?
Yes, not officially, but
yes. I like that answer.
We do a lot of behind the scenes vetting of products that manufacturers want us to carry, and so we're going through that process with Sonic to see, and our side of things is, I'm sorry, the testing side of things is one part of the equation, but of course, I mean, there has to be a business case for it too, so it's multiple things go into it, and I don't say, yes, that's a good tire, we are carrying it, and it magically happens. Much as I wish that it worked that way, it absolutely doesn't. So we have sampled that tire. Yes.
Can you tell us any magic results of said thing, or is it still undergoing?
I can't at this point. I'm sorry. As much as I love being forthcoming and sharing stuff, when it's a tire that is in that stage of this like courtship process, I don't want to throw anything out there. I'm sorry.
You don't want to slap and spook her, so you gotta.
There you go.
I was gonna say, it sounds to me like TJ's trying to, he's trying to save his place in the future for having to come back on the podcast.
There you go. Yeah, we can talk about it if it happens. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
So I have real deal. One more question for you. This new thing has come about. Good old Tire Reviews broke it the other day. I saw he posted about this California tire ban. The rolling resistance test. Man, what are your thoughts on something like that? I know that I'm not trying to get political by any stretch of the imagination. Obviously, just talking about in general, the concept of banning tires based on rolling resistance to increase fuel mileage. Uh, I mean, it just goes into that weird realm of like, why, why?
Right. And I think the the idea behind it is altruistic. I think, I'm pretty sure. A lot of times these types of laws and legislations are made by people that potentially have good intentions, but aren't looking 6 steps down. What is going to be the unintended consequences of this legislation? And Jonathan is actually very good at that. He makes some very good points. Do again. he he reached out to me talking about after he posted that. He was like, wow, the comments turned really quickly. I was like, so I, as a representative, I've got the name on my shirt. I
Yeah.
am very hesitant to talk about
Yeah,
this, but
completely understand. Yeah.
yeah, I do believe that yes, we are working with we are working with limited resources, and potentially we shouldn't keep drawing from the same bucket and then deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Maybe we can kind of spread out the buckets that we draw from. I believe that we should be doing things to not accelerate the rate at which we are consuming our planet's natural resources. So I agree on the surface that sure, better fuel economy for all is good thing, but is this actually the way to accomplish that? Um, I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of the critical safety components of a tire, wet traction as an example, are essentially direct trade-offs for lower rolling resistance. The things you do to improve one hurt the other, and so it's a compromise. And are we going to be, if you have a tire that has super good rolling resistance and it's just okay at wet traction when it's brand new, what happens when it's at 5/32 of an inch remaining tread depth? It started just okay, and they're not getting any better as they wear. So you potentially end up with people disposing of tires earlier than they would have, not because they are worn out, but because they are no longer providing the satisfaction that drivers expect when they're driving. And that is just one of the examples that I don't know if this legislation, the people that are writing it or wrote it, I don't know if they're aware of those kinds of things.
Well,
I don't know
TJ,
what people know.
I'm going to tell you right now. I've seen the state of tires and people and cars in California, and everybody goes down to where there's metal showing. Because there's
Right.
not snow here to make people go and concern themselves.
Right.
And if we know anything about how California drivers drive when it rains, giving them a bunch of low rolling resistance tires, I mean, we're gonna definitely what's the verbiage that I'm looking for when you weed out people based on how retarded they are? Oh yeah, we're gonna
Call the
do some
herd.
of that.
Call the herd. Darwinism.
Yeah.
Natural selection. Maybe that's what we're
Natural
looking for.
selection.
Yeah, there it is.
We're gonna be
Yeah,
down the natural selection road if California drivers, because holy smokes, it is gonna get rough in the state of California real fast, especially with all the supercars. And I mean, granted, based off the way they are, but I digress. I just was curious, based off of some other people posting about that, and obviously your status in the automotive industry and the tire industry, if that was gonna play any role. But obviously, you guys are on the testing side, the marketing side of the house. It will make your job a little bit less fun from a California perspective, because you'll be like, I have to build a whole California caliber of tires.
right. Yes, yeah. We have our 49 state test calendar, and then we have our California test calendar.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Well, at least you get to come to, places like Buttonwillow and test, because you could be like, we got to go to California to do that.
That's right. If they're only going to be used in California, then they have to be tested in California. Make it as representative as possible.
Gotta do that, man.
That's awesome.
Well, one thing I love and I appreciate hugely from everything that you do is you do take an enormous amount of time. You explain yourself very eloquently and well to ensure that all the information that you're passing to all of these time attackers out there and automotive enthusiasts is at the utmost highest of caliber. That is extremely, extremely important. We vastly appreciate yourself, Tire Reviews, all those other guys who take the time. And I love the fact that you, like you said, you guys kind of share information on the backside and kind of compare and contrast, because that is something, right? I look at you guys as our tire scientists of this world. And, if there's one thing we learned, the internet was created so that scientists could compare data and compare analysis. And that's what you guys are doing. You guys are using all of this information and comparing, contrasting, and giving us the best information possible so that we as consumers can make terrible, terrible life choices and mortgage our own houses to buy as many tires as possible.
There you go. I give you the information. What you do with it, that's up to you. Out of my hands at that point. Yeah.
I think Kilgore has some rapid fire questions for you, though.
Ooh,
so
you're absolutely right.
Kilgore, let's hit him with them.
Yeah. Well, TJ, while we're doing that, give us a shout out to where people can sort of keep up with Tire Rack, the testing that you guys do, but then also if there are any, if you have any personal or your own enthusiast channels or social media where people can kind of keep up with your own racing outside of Tire Rack, would love to hear about that as well.
Certainly. The easier question is my own personal stuff. I don't spend a whole lot of time promoting myself on social media. So really, there's nothing that you
It's
need.
a black hole.
Yep,
There's nothing.
absolutely. I compete in SCCA Time Attack. Did 8 years of Champ Car endurance racing. Still love track nights. So I'm out there. Absolutely. If you see me, come up, talk to me. Let's talk tires. Let's talk whatever. Tell me what you like, dislike. I don't care. Just I love the feedback. But really, yeah, you won't. I mean, I'm on social media, but I'm not active.
You just
on
lurk.
It, so.
As you said, you lurk. You don't really. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And then for Tire Rack, TireRack.com, at the top of the homepage, there's a research and advice tab. Click that. You can find our testing there. We also have our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Tire Rack. We are posting all of our videos there. We are absolutely trying to get to Jonathan Benson levels of view, or Tire Reviews levels of views. So of course, share, like, subscribe, all of that kind of good stuff. We have a Tire Rack Instagram, Tire Rack Facebook. I think there's a Tire Rack TikTok. Maybe not. I think I've heard.
If not, TJ's starting it tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm the guy that said I'd stay off the social media. Anyway, so yeah, absolutely. Of course, in addition to testing tires, we are also the largest online retailer of tires. So I'm sure everybody watching this podcast knows that. But yeah, buying tires from Tire Rack keeps me in the seat and doing this kind of stuff. So.
Tires for your car, tires for your truck, tires for your trailer. You can get them all there, and that is that's something not to neglect.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. So we've got some rapid fire questions for you.
I'm ready.
No, you don't have to think about them too much. These are just gut reaction. There's going to be no explanation needed. We won't ask any follow-up questions. We might make some faces, but that's going to be it.
Glorious. All right? I'm so ready.
All right, here we go. So, domestic, JDM, or Euro BMW? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
we're starting
dirty
off good. Power mods or suspension mods?
Suspension mods.
What's your favorite track in the U.S.? And you can't say Gingerman.
Road Atlanta.
Oh.
Right. Rear-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, or all-wheel drive? All right. Manual, sequential, or paddle shifting? DCT. There we go. A turbo 4-cylinder. Actually, I'm sorry. NA 4-cylinder, turbo 4-cylinder, twin turbo V6, V8, or electric.
Twin turbo V6.
It's called a G87, people. Driver aids or analog?
Analog.
Do you prefer records or championships? You say you do time attack records or championships?
Mm.
All right. Now
Can I
this
give an
one is probably
explanation on
gonna
that one? No, I'm not allowed
be.
to.
This one I think should be a good one because I think you've driven quite a few cars. But actually, I'm gonna follow up with another question on this. Most overrated car that you've driven?
Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock.
One that was very
Challenger Hellcat.
underwhelming.
Oh,
Challenger
okay.
Hellcat.
All right. What is the most overrated tire you've driven?
So on that one, I'm sorry. I can't.
right,
I know
right.
exactly
Fair.
what it is. I go straight to it, but
Fair enough.
I
All
can't.
right. Next time you see TJ at the track, you're gonna have to ask him. Maybe he'll whisper it in your ear away from
You get
everyone
3
else
guesses.
who's listening. Yes.
I mean, if it weren't being recorded, I would tell you. But.
All right. No, fair enough. All right. Last one. The car you wish you still had.
Neon SRT4.
Wow.
Heck yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
It was glorious when I was 20 years old.
Yeah.
It might suck by today's standards, but man, that feeling was just something.
Those pops and bangs, man.
Yeah,
Those noises it made.
You got it.
Yep. Awesome. All right. Well, TJ, we really appreciate you coming on. This has been so much fun. We could keep going on and on talking more about tires. There's plenty of things. So with that being said, you guys have some testing come up. We may have to get you back on, or make this a yearly thing at least to talk about the newest updated tires, get the inside scoop. So we really, again, appreciate you coming on. We will link the Tire Rack social media and website and everything in our description. So if you're looking for any of that as the listeners, go there and you'll be able to find anything that you need. And definitely, go to their YouTube page. There is so much good information there. And TJ and the guys have some new testing that'll be coming out probably at the time this episode is airing, as well as coming out over the summer. So definitely be looking for that content, subscribe, and they will tell you which tire or tires you should think about buying based on their testing. All right. You can also follow us, the podcast, on Instagram at Perfect Lap Podcast. You can also check out our website, perfectlappodcast.com. If you want to email the show, you can do that, maximumattack@perfeclappodcast.com. We always enjoy listening to your comments. We love to hear what sort of suggestions you guys have. We want to make content that is interesting to you all. We release these episodes pretty much every other Thursday, so always be on the lookout for those. You can find us on any of your favorite podcast platforms. As always, thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode with TJ Campbell from Tire Rack. For all you time attackers out there, keep pushing, go fast, take chances. We'll see you in the next one.